The maintenance corridor smelled like rust and old air filters. Jinho Park wiped sweat from his forehead as he checked the thermal scanner one more time. The device showed a faint heat signature coming from somewhere deep in the abandoned detention wing. That was strange. This entire section was supposed to be empty, scheduled for demolition next month. He had been working on Horizon's Edge station for only 3 months now. The job was simple enough. Check the life support systems, fix what breaks, and stay out of trouble. After his messy breakup back on Earth, staying out of trouble sounded perfect. But now his scanner was picking up something that should not be there. Jinho moved deeper into the corridor. The lights here barely worked, flickering every few seconds. His boots crunched on debris and dust that had collected over the years. Nobody came to this part of the station anymore. Commander Taewon Choi had sealed it off 6 months ago, claiming biohazard concerns. Most workers just accepted it and moved on. The heat signature grew stronger. Jinho stopped in front of a massive door with old biometric locks. The metal was thick, designed to hold something dangerous. Yellow warning signs covered the surface, faded and peeling. He placed his hand on the door. It felt warm. His engineering instincts told him to report this and leave. Protocol was clear about unauthorized entry into sealed areas, but something else tugged at him. The heat signature was not mechanical. It was biological, and it was weak, like whatever was inside did not have much time left. Jinho pulled out his portable terminal and connected it to the door's lock system. The security was old, outdated by at least 10 years. His fingers moved quickly across the screen, running bypass codes he had learned during his academy days. The lock clicked. The door hissed as pressure equalized. Then it slowly opened. The smell hit him first. It was awful. A mix of waste and sickness and something metallic. Jinho covered his nose and stepped inside. The cell was huge, probably designed for large cargo or dangerous prisoners. And there in the far corner was something that made him freeze. A creature lay curled against the wall. It was massive, easily 4 meters long, with scales that might have once been brilliant purple but now looked dull and gray. Wings, torn and broken, were folded against its sides. The head was dragon-like with horns and a long snout. But what caught Jinho's attention was the swollen belly. This creature was pregnant. The dragon's eyes opened slowly. They were golden, filled with pain and exhaustion and something that looked like hope. Those eyes locked onto Jinho and he felt something pass between them. A plea. A desperate, silent cry for help. Jinho's hands shook as he pulled out his medical scanner. The readings made his stomach turn. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, multiple injuries that had healed poorly. This creature had been here for weeks, maybe months, with barely any food or water, and she was close to giving birth. He knew he should leave. Call the medical team. Follow proper channels. But looking into those golden eyes, he knew there was no time for that. Whatever this creature was, whoever had put her here wanted her dead. And her children with her. Jinho made his decision. He dropped his tool bag and pulled out the emergency medical supplies he always carried. Water purification tablets, nutrient packs, wound sealant. Basic stuff, but it was all he had. He approached slowly, hands raised to show he meant no harm. The dragon watched him with those intelligent eyes. When he got close enough, she lifted one clawed hand and gently touched his arm. The moment her skin made contact with his, Jinho's mind exploded with images. He saw flashes of memory, emotions, feelings that were not his own. He saw a diplomatic ship, a wedding ceremony between a human man and this dragon creature. Love, joy, then violence, gunfire, explosions, the human falling, dying. This creature, Wraith, her name was Wraith, being dragged away and thrown into this cell. Jinho gasped and pulled back. His heart pounded in his chest. Telepathy. She could share thoughts through touch, and what he saw made everything clear. This was not some dangerous criminal. This was a victim, someone important, and someone powerful on this station wanted her dead. He opened a nutrient pack and held it out to her. Wraith took it with trembling claws and drank desperately. She finished 3 packs before her body seemed to relax slightly. Jinho sprayed wound sealant on the worst of her injuries, knowing it was not enough but hoping it would help. As he worked, he noticed details he had missed before. A torn diplomatic sash around her neck. Jewelry that looked official, ceremonial. This was not just any Velrinian, he realized. The species name came from her memories. This was someone important. Maybe royalty. Wraith touched his hand again. More images flooded his mind. Her children, The eggs growing inside her. They needed specific care, specific conditions. She was dying, slowly, and her children would die with her if nothing changed. She showed him her people, the Velrenian sovereignty, their desperate hope for alliance with humanity. She showed him the extremists who opposed that alliance, who saw her mixed-species children as abominations, and she showed him Commander Choi, standing outside this very cell, looking down at her with cold hatred, ordering the guards to let her starve, saying that no alien filth would corrupt humanity on his station. Jinho felt anger burn through him. He had known Choi was strict, maybe even prejudiced, but this was murder. This was genocide, and apparently he had been getting away with it for months. Wraith's eyes pleaded with him again. She was too weak to escape on her own, too far gone to fight. She placed her clawed hand over her swollen belly protectively. "Save them," her expression said. "Please save them." Jinho stood up and looked around the cell. There were old surveillance cameras in the corners, but they looked inactive. He pulled out his terminal again and checked. The cameras were off, probably to hide what was happening here. Good. That gave him some time. He needed help. He needed supplies. He needed to move Wraith somewhere safe before she went into labor. But most of all, he needed to do this without alerting Choi. Jinho grabbed his communicator to call his friend Mirai, the medical officer. Before he could press the button, red lights began flashing throughout the cell. An alarm blared loud and piercing. He looked at the door's control panel and his blood went cold. Silent alert. The door had a backup security system he had not noticed. Opening it had triggered a direct alarm to station security. To Commander Choi's office, they knew he was here. They knew he had found Wraith. And they were coming. Jinho looked at Wraith. She looked back at him with those golden eyes, now filled with understanding. They both knew what this meant. He had just made himself an enemy of the most powerful man on the station. He had just thrown away his career, maybe his life. But as he looked at her swollen belly, at the children fighting to survive inside, he knew he would make the same choice again. Some things were more important than following orders. Some things were worth fighting for. He grabbed his supplies and took Wraith's clawed hand. "I'm going to get you out of here," he said firmly. "I promise." Wraith squeezed his hand gently. Even without telepathy, he understood. She believed him. She trusted him. Now he just had to figure out how to keep that promise before Choi's guards arrived. The alarm kept screaming. Jinho's mind raced as he tried to think of a plan. He could not carry Wraith out by himself. She was too big, too heavy, and too weak to move quickly. He needed help, and he needed it fast. His communicator buzzed. The screen showed an incoming call from Mirai Shin, his closest friend on the station. She worked in Medical Bay 3, and they often had lunch together. He answered quickly. "Jinho, what did you do?" Mirai's voice was tense. "Security alerts are going crazy. They're saying you broke into the detention wing. I need your help," Jinho said, looking at Wraith. "And I need you to trust me. Can you get to Detention Block 7 without being seen?" There was a pause. "This is serious, Jinho. You could lose your job. You could end up in a cell yourself. There's a pregnant alien in here who's been left to die. She's royalty from the Velrenian sovereignty. Someone on this station tried to murder her and her children." Jinho spoke fast, urgency filling every word. "I need medical supplies. The real stuff, not the basic kit I have. And I need them now." Another pause. Longer this time. Then Mirai sighed. "I'll bring what I can. But Jinho, if you're wrong about this, I'm not wrong. Please hurry." He ended the call and turned back to Wraith. She was watching him with those golden eyes. He could see the pain there, the exhaustion, but also something else. Gratitude. She reached out and touched his hand again. More images filled his mind, clearer this time. He saw her husband, Doyen Lee, a human diplomat who had fallen in love with her during peace negotiations. He saw their wedding, a beautiful ceremony that blended human and Velrenian traditions. He saw the joy on both their faces, the hope they represented for both species. Then he saw the attack. Armed soldiers storming their ship as it approached Horizon's edge. Doyen fighting to protect Wraith, firing his weapon at the attackers. An explosion. Doyen falling. Wraith screaming his name. Then rough hands dragging her away, throwing her into this cell, locking the door, and Commander Choi's face cold and satisfied looking through the small window. "You should have stayed with your own kind, creature," Choi's voice echoed in the memory. Now you and your abominations will die here, forgotten. Jinho pulled his hand away, breathing hard. Anger burned in his chest. This was not just murder. This was political assassination. Wraith had been a bridge between two species, and someone had decided that bridge needed to burn. 20 minutes later, the door lock beeped softly. Jinho spun around, ready to fight, but it was Mirai. She slipped inside, carrying 2 large medical bags. Her eyes went wide when she saw Wraith. "Oh my God," she whispered. "That's a Velrinian. I've only seen pictures. She's dying," Jinho said bluntly. "Can you help her?" Mirai set down her bags and pulled out her medical scanner. Her professional instincts took over as she read the results. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, internal injuries. And she's about to give birth. "Jinho, this is bad. Really bad. Can you stabilize her?" Mirai pulled out IV bags and injection pens. "I can try. But she needs a proper medical facility. She needs equipment I don't have here." She looked at Jinho seriously. "Who did this to her?" "Commander Choi." Mirai's hands froze. She stared at him. "The station commander?" "Jinho, that's insane. Why would he?" "Because she's carrying hybrid children. Half human, half Velrinian. And Choi thinks that's wrong." Jinho's voice was hard. Her husband was a human diplomat. They were coming here for a treaty signing. Choi had them attacked. He killed her husband and locked her in here to die slowly. Mirai looked sick. "That's genocide. That's murder." "Yes, and we're the only ones who can stop it." As Mirai worked on setting up an IV line for Wraith, Jinho's communicator buzzed again. This time it was from Hyunwoo Nam, a security officer he sometimes played cards with. Hyunwoo was a good man, honest and fair. If anyone in security could be trusted, it was him. "Jinho, don't say anything." Hyunwoo's voice was barely a whisper. "Just listen. Commander Choi is mobilizing a full security team to the detention wing. He's telling everyone you've gone crazy, that you've released a dangerous prisoner. He's authorized use of lethal force." Jinho's blood went cold. "How long do we have?" "Maybe 10 minutes. They're gearing up now. Look, I don't know what's really going on, but I know you. You're not crazy. If you did this, you had a good reason." Hyunwoo paused. "There are maintenance tunnels behind Detention Block 7. Old ones from when the station was first built. Most people don't know about them. You can access them through panel J7 in the wall. It leads to the residential sectors." "Thank you, Hyunwoo. Don't thank me yet. Choi is calling this a station-wide emergency. Nowhere is going to be safe for long. Whatever you're planning, you better do it fast." The call ended. Jinho turned to Mirai. "We need to move her. Now." "She can't walk," Mirai protested. "She's too weak." Wraith made a sound, something between a growl and a whimper. She struggled to her feet, using the wall for support. Her legs shook, but she stayed upright. She looked at Jinho and nodded. She understood. She would move or they would all die. Jinho found panel J7 and pried it open with his tools. Behind it was a dark tunnel, narrow and dusty. Perfect for hiding. Terrible for moving a large pregnant alien. But it was their only option. They moved slowly. Jinho went first with a flashlight. Mirai stayed close to Wraith to monitor her condition, and Wraith dragged herself forward with stubborn determination. Every few meters she had to stop and rest. Her breathing was labored. Sweat dripped from her scales. The tunnel seemed endless. They crawled through the darkness for what felt like hours, but was probably only 30 minutes. Behind them they could hear sounds. Shouting. Boots on metal. The security team had reached the cell and found it empty. Finally, they emerged in a maintenance closet in the residential sector. Jinho's personal quarters were 3 doors down. He peeked out into the hallway. Empty. Everyone was either at work or hiding from the security alert. They moved quickly. Wraith barely made it through his door before collapsing. Mirai immediately went back to work with her medical equipment. Jinho sealed the door and activated every lock he had. His quarters were small. One room serving as bedroom, kitchen, and living space combined. There was a bathroom and a storage closet. Not much, but it would have to do. He pushed furniture aside to make room for Wraith on the floor. As Mirai worked, Jinho pulled up his terminal and started searching through the station's database. If Choi had murdered a Velrinian diplomat, there had to be evidence. Files, orders, something. What he found made his hands clench into fists. Financial records showed Commander Choi had been embezzling supplies meant for alien diplomatic missions for over a year. Food, medicine, equipment, all marked as delivered but actually sold on the black market. The money had gone into hidden accounts. When Wraith and her husband arrived, they would have discovered the theft. They would have reported it. So Choi had them killed to protect his crimes. Jinho, Mirai's voice was urgent. Her vital signs are dropping. The eggs are putting too much stress on her system. Wraith's eyes found his. She reached out weakly. Jinho took her clawed hand. Images flooded his mind again, but these were different. These were instructions. Velrinian birth procedures, temperature requirements, emotional support techniques. She was teaching him how to help her deliver her children. But underneath those instructions, he felt her fear. Not for herself. For her children. She knew she was dying. She knew she might not survive the birth. She was preparing him to take care of her babies alone. No, Jinho said out loud. You're going to make it. We're going to save you and your children. Wraith's expression was sad but grateful. She squeezed his hand. Then her whole body tensed. A low moan escaped her throat. Her eyes went wide with pain. The birth is starting, Mirai said, her voice tight with stress. It's happening now. Jinho looked at the locked door. Outside, somewhere on the station, Choi's security forces were hunting for them. Inside, Wraith was about to give birth to 3 children who might be the only hope for peace between 2 species. He had no weapons, no backup, and no plan beyond keeping them alive for the next few hours. But as he held Wraith's hand and felt her pain mixing with determination, Jinho made a silent promise. Whatever it took, however impossible it seemed, he would protect this family, even if it cost him everything. The hunt was on, and they were out of time. Wraith's whole body shook with pain. Her claws dug into the floor of Jinho's quarters, leaving deep scratches in the metal. Another contraction hit, and she let out a sound that was half roar, half cry. The sound made Jinho's heart break. Mirai moved quickly, checking readings on her medical scanner. Her body temperature is spiking. It's part of the birth process, but we need to cool the environment or she'll overheat. Jinho rushed to his environmental controls and dropped the room temperature as low as it would go. Cold air blasted from the vents. He grabbed every cold pack from his emergency kit and placed them around Wraith. It was not enough. Nothing felt like enough. Wraith reached for him again. He took her hand, and immediately her thoughts filled his mind. Not words exactly, more like feelings and images. She needed him to stay close. The telepathic connection helped her control the pain, kept her calm. In Velrinian culture, births were communal events. The mother needed the emotional support of her family to make it through. But her family was dead. Her husband was dead. Her people were light years away. All she had was a human engineer she met an hour ago. Jinho squeezed her hand tighter. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Another contraction. Wraith's back arched. Her wings spread out involuntarily, knocking over Jinho's chair. Mirai ducked and kept working. First egg is coming. I can see it. Time seemed to stretch and compress at the same time. Minutes felt like hours. Each contraction was stronger than the last. Wraith's breathing came in quick gasps. Sweat and something else, some kind of fluid, made her scales glisten. Through their connection, Jinho experienced flashes of Wraith's memories. He saw her childhood on the Velrinian homeworld, flying through purple skies with her siblings. He saw her first meeting with Doyen at a diplomatic conference, how they had argued about trade agreements and somehow fallen in love in the middle of the debate. He saw their private moments, their hopes and dreams for the future, their plan to raise their children as bridges between worlds. He saw Doyen's last moments, the explosion, his body falling, and his final words whispered through their telepathic bond. Protect our children. Promise me, Wraith had promised. And now dying in a stranger's quarters on a station full of enemies, she was still trying to keep that promise. It's coming, Mirai's voice cut through the memories. The first egg emerged, about the size of a football with a shell that shimmered between silver and purple. Mirai caught it carefully and wrapped it in thermal blankets. The shell was warm to the touch, pulsing with life inside. Wraith collapsed back, breathing hard. But there was no time to rest. The second egg was already coming. Her body convulsed again. Jinho held her hand through it all, feeling every wave of pain as if it were his own. The second egg came faster. Mirai caught it and wrapped it like the first. 2 down, 1 to go. But something was wrong with the third. Jinho could feel it through the connection. Wraith's fear spiked. The third egg was smaller, weaker. It had not developed properly. The stress and starvation had affected it. Wraith pushed with everything she had left. The third egg emerged, noticeably smaller than its siblings. The shell looked thin, almost fragile. Mireille's face went pale when she saw it. "This one is critical," she said quietly. "I don't know if it will survive without proper Velrinian medical equipment." Wraith made a sound of pure grief. She knew, she had known for weeks. One of her children was dying. The eggs began to crack. All three of them almost at the same time. That was faster than expected. Stress births meant early hatching. Mireille worked frantically, adjusting the thermal blankets, trying to create the right environment. The first egg split open. A tiny creature emerged, no bigger than a house cat. It had scales like its mother but softer, almost like skin in places. 4 legs, small wings that were still folded and wet. A long tail with a tuft at the end. And a face that was somehow both dragon and something else, something almost human in the eyes. The hatchling opened its mouth and made a tiny chirping sound. Its scales were strong and bright, shimmering purple with hints of gold. Healthy. Strong. Hana, Jinho said without thinking. The name just came to him. Her name is Hana. Wraith's eyes filled with something that might have been tears. She nodded weakly. Through their touch, she pushed a feeling of approval. Yes, Hana was right. The second egg hatched moments later. This one was smaller than Hana but moved more energetically. It tumbled out of its shell and immediately started exploring, chirping curiously at everything. Its scales were darker, more blue than purple. Jiho, Jinho named this one too. He's Jiho. The third egg barely cracked. Mireille had to carefully peel away pieces of shell. The hatchling inside was tiny, half the size of its siblings. Its scales were pale, almost gray. It barely moved. Sora, Jinho whispered. He picked up the tiny creature carefully. It was so small, so fragile. Its breathing was shallow. Fight, Sora, please fight. Wraith touched all 3 of her children with a trembling hand. Joy and sorrow mixed in her expression. 3 lives had come into the world, but at what cost? She looked at Jinho, their eyes met. And through their connection, she began to transfer something. Not just memories this time. Knowledge. Deep instinctive knowledge about how to care for Velrinian young. What they needed to eat. How to keep them safe. How to teach them. How to help them grow. It was too much information too fast. Jinho's head felt like it was splitting open. But he held on, accepting everything she gave him. He understood what was happening. Wraith was giving him everything she had left. All her knowledge, all her love, all her hopes. She was making him their father. No, Jinho said out loud. You're going to be okay. You're going to raise them yourself. But Wraith's eyes were already fading. The birth had taken everything from her. Weeks of starvation, the stress, the injuries, all of it finally catching up. She had held on long enough to see her children born. Now her body was giving up. She touched his face gently with one claw. A final image filled his mind. Doyen, her beloved husband, waiting for her. She was going to join him. Finally, they would be together again, but her children would live. Because of this human stranger who had chosen kindness over protocol, who had risked everything for a species not his own. She had one more gift to give him, a title. In Velrinian culture, the highest honor for someone outside the birth family. Clutch guardian, parent, father. I promise, Jinho said, tears running down his face. I'll protect them. I'll raise them. I'll make sure they know who you were, who their father was. I promise. Wraith's eyes closed. Her breathing slowed, then stopped. Mireille checked her vital signs and shook her head. She's gone. Jinho sat there holding Wraith's hand for a long moment. 3 tiny hatchlings chirped and crawled around him, unaware they were now orphans. Hana nuzzled against his leg. Jiho explored Wraith's scales curiously. Sora barely moved, struggling to breathe. The grief hit Jinho like a physical blow. He had known this woman for only a few hours, but through their telepathic connection it felt like a lifetime. He had experienced her whole life. Her love, her dreams, her pain. And now she was gone, but he could not afford to grieve, not yet. Outside his quarters, security forces were hunting for them. Sora needed medical attention immediately, and somehow he had to figure out how to keep 3 newborn alien children alive in the middle of a crisis. A loud knock on his door made him jump. Jinho Park, this is station security. Open this door immediately. Mireille looked at him with wide eyes. Jinho looked at the 3 hatchlings. Hana had climbed onto his lap. Jiho was making curious sounds at the door. Sora lay in his palm, barely breathing. He had made a promise to a dying mother. A promise to protect these children no matter what. Now he had to figure out how to keep it. The knocking got louder. More insistent. "We know you're in there! This is your final warning." Jinho stood up carefully, cradling Sora in one hand. He looked at Mirai. "We need a plan." Mirai pulled out her communicator. "I might have an idea, but you're not going to like it." The door shook as something heavy hit it from outside. They were trying to break through. Time was up. The door shook again. Metal groaned under the impact. They were using something heavy, maybe a battering ram. Jinho had maybe 2 minutes before security broke through. Mirai was typing frantically on her communicator. "I'm uploading everything to the station network. All the evidence you found about Choi's embezzlement. The financial records, everything. They'll trace that back to you," Jinho warned. "I don't care anymore." Mirai's hands were steady as she worked. What he did to Wraith, what he tried to do to these children, that's evil. "People need to know." She hit send. Within seconds, every terminal on Horizon's Edge would have access to the files. Every worker, every officer, everyone would see proof of Commander Choi's crimes. Jinho's communicator buzzed. It was Hyunwoo. "What did you two just do? The whole command network is going crazy." "Expose Choi," Jinho said simply. "Hyunwoo, I need help, real help. Can you get us to the hangar bay?" There was a pause. Jinho heard voices in the background, people shouting. Then Hyunwoo spoke again, his voice changed, harder, determined. "Give me 10 minutes. I'm bringing friends." The door cracked. A fist-sized dent appeared in the metal. Hana chirped an alarm and hid behind Jinho's leg. Jiho growled. A tiny sound that would have been cute if they were not in danger. Sora did not react at all, lying still in Jinho's palm. Mirai was checking the hatchlings with her scanner. "Sora needs help soon. Her metabolism is shutting down. Without proper equipment, I give her maybe 6 hours. 6 hours." Jinho looked at the tiny creature in his hand. She was so small, so helpless. He had promised Wraith he would protect them. All of them. He could not let Sora die. The door burst open. 5 security officers rushed in with weapons drawn. They stopped when they saw the scene. Wraith's body lying on the floor. 3 tiny hatchlings. Jinho and Mirai standing protectively over them. The lead officer was a man named Taejin. Jinho recognized him. They had met in the cafeteria a few times. Taejin looked confused, his weapon lowering slightly. "Jinho, what is this?" Taejin asked. "Commander Choi said you kidnapped a dangerous alien. But this looks like a mother who just gave birth." "That's because it is," Jinho said carefully. "Choi imprisoned a pregnant Velrinian diplomat and left her to die. Her husband was human. These children are the future of human-Velrinian relations. And Choi murdered them all to hide his crimes." Taejin looked at his team. They all seemed uncertain. One of them, a younger officer, had his communicator out. "Sir, have you seen these files? There's evidence here that the commander has been stealing from diplomatic missions for months." "It's fake," Taejin said, but he did not sound convinced. "Has to be." "Look at her," Jinho said, pointing to Wraith. "Does she look dangerous? Or does she look like someone who was tortured?" Taejin's weapon lowered completely. He stepped closer and examined Wraith's body. The old wounds, the signs of starvation, the torn wings. His face went pale. "This is wrong," he whispered. "This is all wrong." His communicator crackled. Commander Choi's voice came through, sharp and angry. "Status report. Have you secured the target?" Taejin looked at Jinho, then at the hatchlings, then at his team. Jinho saw the moment he made his decision. "Target secured, sir," Taejin said into his communicator. "But we need medical support. The suspect has injuries, negative. Bring him to detention immediately." "Sir, there are extenuating circumstances." "That's an order, officer." Taejin ended the call. He looked at Jinho. "You have 10 minutes. There's a cargo elevator at the end of this corridor. It goes straight to the hangar bay. Take it." "Why are you helping us?" Jinho asked. "Because I joined security to protect people, not murder babies." Taejin handed Jinho his access card. "This will get you past most locks. I'll go before I change my mind." Jinho and Mirai moved quickly. Jinho created a makeshift carrier for the hatchlings using a bag lined with thermal blankets. Hana and Jiho settled in easily, but Sora needed to be held carefully. She was so weak. They made it to the cargo elevator. The doors opened. Inside was Hyunwoo and 3 other security officers. All of them had weapons but pointed them at the floor. "We saw the files," Hyunwoo said. "Half the station is talking about it. A lot of people are angry. Where's Choi?" Jinho asked as they descended, locked in his office. He's trying to do damage control, but it's not working. People are refusing orders. Hyunwoo looked at the hatchlings. Are those the children? Jinho nodded. This is Hana, Jiho, and Sora. They need to get off this station. Especially Sora. She's sick. The elevator reached the hangar level. The doors opened to chaos. Workers were arguing. Some security officers were trying to maintain order, while others had abandoned their posts. In the middle of it all stood a woman Jinho recognized. Sumin Kang, the station's best pilot. Sumin saw them and jogged over. Jinho, right? I saw what you did. What Choi did. She gestured to her ship, a fast courier vessel. I can get you out of here. I've already filed a flight plan. They'll shoot us down, Mirai said. Not if enough people stand with us. Sumin raised her voice. Everyone listen up. These people are trying to save 3 innocent children from being murdered by our commander. Are we going to let that happen? Are we going to be part of genocide? The hangar went quiet. Everyone stared. Jinho stood there holding Sora with Hana and Jiho chirping from the carrier. 3 tiny lives that represented something bigger than any of them. A mechanic stepped forward. Then another. Then a cargo handler. Then more people. A dozen workers formed a line between Jinho's group and the security officers who were still loyal to Choi. We're not letting you take them, the mechanic said firmly. One of Choi's loyal officers raised his weapon. Stand down. That's an order. No, the mechanic said. We're done following evil orders. The standoff held for a moment. Then Hyunwoo and his team raised their weapons at Choi's officers. Lower your weapons. That's an order from someone who still has a conscience. Choi's officers looked at each other. They were outnumbered. Slowly, they lowered their weapons. Let's move, Sumin said. They ran for her ship. Jinho's heart pounded as they crossed the hangar bay. At any moment, he expected shots to ring out. But none came. The station's workers had chosen a side. They had chosen life over hatred. They were almost to the ship when an explosion rocked the hangar. Alarms blared. Red emergency lights bathed everything in crimson. What was that? Mirai shouted over the noise. Sumin checked her communicator. Her face went white. Choi activated the hangar lockdown. He sealed all the exits and rigged the ships with explosives. Jinho looked at her ship. Including yours? I disabled the external access codes weeks ago. I didn't trust the command team. Sumin grinned. Paranoia pays off sometimes. My ship is clean. They boarded quickly. The ship was small but fast, designed for quick cargo runs between stations. Sumin started the launch sequence while everyone else strapped in. Jinho held Sora carefully, checking her breathing. It was getting weaker. How long to the nearest Velrenian outpost? He asked. Sumin checked her charts. 3 days at maximum speed. But we don't have enough fuel for that. Best I can do is 2 days to a relay station. Sora doesn't have 2 days, Mirai said quietly. She has hours. The ship lifted off. Through the view screen, Jinho saw Commander Choi appear on the hangar bay catwalk. His face was twisted with rage. He was shouting into a communicator, giving orders. Then something strange happened. The workers who had protected them earlier moved as a group. They rushed the catwalk. Choi tried to run, but there were too many. They surrounded him, grabbed him, pulled him down. The station is revolting, Hyunwoo said with satisfaction. Choi's done. The ship cleared the hangar and accelerated into space. Behind them, Horizon's edge grew smaller. Jinho watched it disappear and felt a strange mix of emotions. That station had been his home for 3 months. Now he could never return. Sora made a tiny sound in his hand. Her breathing was getting worse. Jinho looked at her pale scales, her closed eyes. He had promised Wraith he would protect all 3 children. But how could he save Sora when they were days away from help? Mirai, he said desperately. Isn't there anything we can do? Mirai was already pulling up medical files on her terminal. I'm looking. Velrenian biology is similar to Earth reptiles in some ways. Maybe I can adapt something. The ship suddenly lurched. Alarms blared again. Sumin cursed. We've got company. Station defense ships, 3 of them. I thought the station revolted, Jinho said. Not everyone, apparently. Sumin's hands flew over the controls. Hold on, this is going to be rough. The ship twisted and dove, evading weapons fire. Hana and Jiho chirped in alarm. Sora did not react. She was fading fast. Then something appeared on the view screen. Ships, lots of them. sleek vessels with elegant designs and colors that shimmered like oil on water. Velrinian ships, where did they come from? Hyunwoo asked. Mireille checked her communicator. I sent a distress signal before we left. A station worker named Yuna helped me boost it. She works in communications. She must have gotten it out. The Velrinian fleet moved between Suman's ship and the station defense ships. A voice came over the comm system, speaking in a language that sounded like wind chimes and deep bells. Then it switched to human language. Human vessel, this is Ambassador Kalen of the Velrinian Sovereignty. We received your distress call. Please maintain course. We will escort you to safety. Jinho felt tears sting his eyes. The Velrinian medical ship arrived within minutes. It was beautiful, shaped like a giant wing with lights that pulsed in calming patterns. A docking tube extended and connected to Suman's vessel. The airlock opened, and 2 Velrinian medical personnel rushed through. They were similar to Wraith but smaller, more slender. Their scales were green and blue instead of purple. They moved with grace and purpose, carrying equipment that looked organic, almost alive. The moment they saw Sora, they acted. One of them gently took the tiny hatchling from Jinho's hands. The other set up a portable medical pod, a transparent sphere filled with glowing fluid. They placed Sora inside. The fluid wrapped around her like a cocoon. Immediately, her breathing strengthened. She will survive, the medic said in accented but clear human language. But it was close. Another hour and we would have been too late. Jinho's legs went weak with relief. He had to sit down. Mirai squeezed his shoulder. We did it. All 3 of them are going to live. The medics examined Hana and Jiho next. Both were declared healthy and strong. Hana nuzzled against the medic's hand, making happy chirping sounds. Jiho was more interested in the medical equipment, trying to climb into it to explore. They have their mother's curiosity, one medic said with a smile, and their father's boldness. You knew them? Jinho asked. Everyone knew Princess Wraith and Ambassador Doyen Lee. Their union was historic. The first official marriage between our species. The medic's expression grew sad. We mourned them when their ship disappeared. We never knew what happened until your distress call. Ambassador Kalen came aboard next. He was larger than the medics, older with deep purple scales that faded to silver around his face. His presence commanded respect. When he saw the 3 hatchlings, he stopped and stared. The royal bloodline survives, he whispered. His eyes found Jinho. You are the human who saved them? Jinho nodded. Wraith was imprisoned on Horizon's edge. I found her just in time. She asked me to protect her children. He paused, emotion thick in his throat. I promised her I would. Kalen approached slowly. He knelt down and examined each hatchling carefully. Hana chirped at him. Jiho tried to climb on his arm. Even Sora, still weak in her medical pod, seemed to react to his presence. They know you are family, Kalen said. Royal young can sense bloodlines. He looked at Jinho with ancient eyes. But they also know you. They accept you as their clutch guardian. Wraith chose well. What happens now? Jinho asked. Kalen stood. Now we return to Velrinian space. The hatchlings will be raised with all the honor their bloodline deserves. And you, Jinho Park, will be offered a choice. What kind of choice? To remain their clutch guardian or to return to your people? Kalen's expression was serious. Understand, clutch guardian is not a title we give lightly. It means you are their parent in all ways that matter. You would live among us, raise them as your own. Be responsible for their education and well-being. It is a lifetime commitment. Jinho looked at the 3 hatchlings. Hana had fallen asleep on his lap. Jiho was investigating Mireille's medical bag. Sora floated peacefully in her healing pod. In just a few hours, these tiny creatures had changed his entire life. He thought about his old life. The failed relationship. The boring engineering job. The loneliness of space station living. Then he thought about Wraith's last moments. The trust in her eyes as she made him their guardian. The promise he had made. I'll stay, Jinho said. They're my children now. Kalen nodded with approval. Then welcome to the Velrinian sovereignty, honored clutch guardian. You will be given citizenship, resources, and support in raising the royal young. Mireille cleared her throat. What about the rest of us? Hyunwoo, Sum, and me. We help too. You are all heroes, Kalen said. You stood against evil when it would have been easier to look away. The sovereignty offers each of you asylum and positions within our diplomatic corps if you wish. We need people like you, people who choose compassion over fear. Hyunwoo laughed. Never thought I'd end up working for an alien government. But after what I saw Choi do, humanity could use some perspective. He looked at Jinho. Besides, someone needs to make sure you don't mess up raising those kids. Suman grinned. I could use a new flying job. The pay better be good. Mirai was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke softly. I lost a child once. Years ago. I thought I could never handle being around children again. She looked at the hatchlings. But maybe this is my chance to heal. I'll come. As their medical guardian. What about Horizon's Edge? Jinho asked. What about Commander Choi? Kalen's expression hardened. Commander Choi will face a galactic tribunal. His crimes are not just against the Velrinian sovereignty. They are crimes against all peaceful species. Murder, attempted genocide, corruption. He will answer for everything. And the people who helped us? They will be protected. The sovereignty is already negotiating with human authorities. Horizon's Edge will undergo major reforms, and the workers who stood up against Choi will be recognized as heroes. Over the next 3 days, they traveled to the Velrinian homeworld. The ship was comfortable and the crew treated them with respect. Jinho spent most of his time with the hatchlings, learning to care for them. Feeding time was an adventure. Velrinian young ate a paste made from minerals and proteins. They would chirp and climb all over Jinho, demanding food. Hana was always first, bold and hungry. Jiho would sometimes forget to eat because he was too busy exploring. Sora, still recovering, needed to be hand-fed carefully. They also needed emotional connection. Velrinian young bonded through touch and telepathy. Every day, Jinho would sit with all three, holding them, letting them share thoughts and feelings through his skin. He experienced their simple joys and fears, the comfort they felt in his presence, the way they already loved him as their father. One night, Mirai found him sitting with the hatchlings asleep around him. You look natural as a dad, she said. Jinho smiled. I never thought I'd be a father. Definitely never thought my kids would be alien dragon children. Does it bother you? That they're not human? No. Jinho stroked Sora's scales gently. They're mine. That's all that matters. Species is just biology. Family is choice. When they arrived at the Velrinian homeworld, Jinho was stunned. The planet was beautiful, with purple skies and floating cities connected by bridges of light. Dragons of every color flew between the cities, their scales catching the sun. The ship landed at the capital city. Thousands of Velrinians had gathered to witness the return of their lost princess's children. When Jinho emerged carrying the hatchlings, the crowd erupted in cheers and songs that sounded like wind through crystal. Kalen led them to the royal palace. It was enormous, built into a mountain with towers that reached the clouds. Inside, they were taken to quarters that were bigger than Jinho's entire apartment back on Earth. This is too much, Jinho protested. This is appropriate for royal young and their clutch guardian, Kalen said. You are family to the throne now. Accept it with grace. The next few years passed quickly. Jinho settled into his new life. He learned the Velrinian language and customs. He learned to fly using mechanical wings designed for humans. He learned to cook Velrinian food, to sing their songs, to understand their history. But most importantly, he raised 3 wonderful children. Hana grew strong and confident. She wanted to be an engineer like Jinho, constantly taking apart and rebuilding devices. Her scales grew brilliant purple with gold accents, just like her mother's. Jiho was the scholar. He devoured books and loved debating philosophy and diplomacy. His scales were deeper purple with blue undertones. He dreamed of following in his parents' footsteps as a diplomat. Sora surprised everyone. The hatchling who almost died became the strongest of the 3. Her pale scales darkened to silver, and she developed an interest in medicine. She wanted to heal others the way Mirai had saved her life. Mirai became their teacher and guardian. She established the first human Velrinian medical exchange program. Hyunwoo led security at the new embassy. Suman trained Velrinian pilots in human flight techniques, and Commander Choi faced justice. The Galactic Tribunal found him guilty of all charges, but when it came time for sentencing, Jinho spoke on his behalf. What he did was evil, Jinho said, but executing him won't bring back the people he hurt. Let him spend his life working to repair the damage. Let him see what these children become. Let him understand what he almost destroyed. The tribunal agreed. Choi was sentenced to serve the Human Velrinian Alliance for the rest of his life. He worked in refugee services, helping the very people he had once hated. It was not forgiveness. It was something more powerful, the chance at redemption. 5 years after rescuing Wraith, Jinho stood in the palace gardens. Hana, Jiho, and Sora were playing, their wings spread wide as they practiced flying. They were not tiny hatchlings anymore. They were young dragons, intelligent and kind, with futures full of promise. "Dad," Hana called. She had started calling him that 3 years ago. "Come fly with us." Jinho strapped on his mechanical wings. He would never fly as gracefully as his children, but he tried. They soared together over the city, a human and 3 dragon children, family in every way that mattered. His communicator buzzed. It was Kalen. "We've received reports of more hybrid children found abandoned in human space."